And we are live. I'm working really hard to not start singing Six Musical every time, so I didn't this time. We're still waiting on Lisa and Karen. Um, Hopefully they'll be here soon. They had messaged me earlier. I know they were still planning on coming tonight. But in the meantime, I wanted to get started, let you guys all know that I'm here. And um, I am, as you can see, not in my workshop today. I am up in my bedroom where there's air conditioning. Yeah, that's really the only reason. It's I have an air conditioner to put into my workshop, but I have to get it cleaned out first and I haven't gotten it done yet. Um I like to say it is on the to-do list, but it hasn't gotten to done. Um so I am um up in my bedroom because it's been hot the past several days and it's stifling in my workshop right now. Um I didn't really have a good craft that I could easily bring up to my bedroom today. So I'm probably just going to be playing a game on my phone the whole time today. Um, but I am looking forward to discussing chapter 9 and especially chapter 10. If any of you have read these chapters, if you're reading along with us, then you probably know I am excited to discuss chapter 10, but I will wait for Lisa and Karen. um, excuse me. Oh, my throat. Um, so in the meantime, I am wearing a necklace that I made. I have earrings that go with it, and I think I've shown them before, but if you're new and you haven't seen them before, I can't figure out where the earrings went because I am the worst at actually putting my jewelry away where it goes. But the necklace is put it where you can actually see it. It's Jane Austen. It's in resin. I printed it out on cardstock and then colored the back of the cardstock gold and then did it in resin. It was one of the very first resin things I've ever done. I just hung it on a necklace, and my shirt has quotes from Pride and Prejudice on it because I am, as most of you know, if you've been following along for any length of time at all, I am a huge James. Um, but the earrings that I have that go with it that I don't currently have. Oh, we have a Lisa. The earrings that I'm not currently wearing are a Pride and Prejudice book and a sensibility book. Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
How are you?
disheveled, but okay.
Sounds about right.
My room is under construction of reorganization, so we are in a corner today.
Nobody puts Lisa in a corner.
That's
Oh,
what I got. No
well,
Karen yet?
nope. I was just explaining to the anybody who's um watching that I am in my bedroom instead of in my workshop because it's hot and my bedroom has air conditioning. Um,
My bedroom does not, and the fan's not even on right now, so I'll be sweating buckets.
Fun,
Oh yeah,
as I'm sure you've already been doing that all day at work,
right.
all week, all month, all summer. Um, but I didn't have anything that I could readily grab to bring up here with me.
Mm.
So um, I am just playing a game on my phone. Not so much a craft, but keeping my fingers busy.
That's right.
I love that.
I'm trying to show all three colors there. There we go.
Yeah, I can see them. I love the shell stitch.
Me too. It's one of my favorites. The shell and the virus. They're my two favorites. Uh, so I read both chapters.
You read what?
And I read both chapters of the book,
Okay.
and I
Did you
read
cry?
more,
I cried. I
a
knew it
little.
was coming and I still cried.
I did a little. I teared up. It was cute. Um, I,
Yeah, when I
I'm
say
a
cry,
little
I don't mean full
shocked.
on sobbing. I mean I teared up several times.
Um, I feel like the way that she wrote this book, I feel like a lot more time should have gone by than what has gone by.
Yeah.
Um,
I keep going like, oh, they're still that age? Oh,
right, like I feel like at this point it should have been a year, and it's
yeah.
probably been more like 3 months,
Like, haven't we already been through a summer?
right? So it's like the way she explains things, it sounds like it's things over time, and it's probably more times of like a week rather than a month. And I see it as a month in my mind.
Which there's this tendency in not just modern storytelling, and storytelling in general, to when you're covering random like bits of this happened and this happened and this happened, there's this tendency to just grab the most interesting stories from over longer spans of time. And it's, I think we automatically interpret it that way because we're used to it being that way. But um, it's super how children are. You don't need a long span of time to have that much happening with that many kids.
Right? Oh, my ankle is bothering me a little bit, so if I wince, it's my ankle. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm surprised we don't have a Karen yet.
Yeah,
Maybe I should text her. Um,
yeah. I just spotted something that one of my children is supposed to be doing also, so I'm going to bring that out to them while you
all right.
do that, and simultaneously keep the people entertained.
Oh yeah. Right. There we go. Yep. So just in here. Just texting Karen to see if she's coming. She probably fell asleep because, well, it's hot and we're all tired. So,
He's back.
hi. Can you see me in this state?
I can see you.
Okay. Um, because I have you as like a little window on my phone while I messaged Karen,
Yep.
and um, so I wasn't. I can't see my mini me picture, so I was like,
Right.
can other people see me? So
What? Oh, there it
I
is. Okay.
I messaged her, but
Okay. Well, we can get started discussing in the meantime.
yep.
Um, so I know we both want to just jump right to chapter 10, but there was a chapter 9 first.
Chapter 10 is like the cream of the story right now. Um,
Chapter 10 is like I knew it was coming, but I didn't remember anything more than that it was coming. I didn't remember any details about it or anything, and it's just like
they
But
kind of
chapter
hinted several times that it probably would happen, so it was like
yeah,
happy to see.
yeah, there was a fair amount of foreshadowing.
So chapter
So
9
if I
was
can just read the opening couple of lines of chapter 9 because I do love that.
go for it. If you have it, go for it.
Reminder that the girls play as Mrs. Shakespeare Smith and her neighbor or sometimes her daughter. Mrs. Shakespeare Smith would like to have Mr. John Brooke, Mr. Thomas Bangs, and Mr. Nathaniel Blake to come to her ball at 3 o'clock today. P.S. Nat must bring his fiddle so we can dance, and all the boys must be good, or they cannot have any of the nice things we have cooked. This elegant invitation would, I fear, have been declined, but for the hint given in the last line of the postscript. I love it so much.
They must behave for the treats.
but so as I just went and to clarify any confusion, not for you because you already know this, but for anybody watching, um, we homeschooled. My boys got several extra breaks throughout the school year due to various things that have resulted in those were their breaks, not so much summer breaks. So they're going to be finishing school through the summer. So the thing that I spotted that I had to run to my child was his history work that he's supposed to be doing that I spotted the corner of that I could just see through the edge of a laundry basket that it was buried in.
Oh, geez.
So,
Hey, wasn't that what he was looking for on Friday?
uh-huh. Clearly I need to get laundry put away sooner.
I
But
was just thinking that he's been looking for it since Friday. Well, not really actively looking for it, but looking.
but I brought it downstairs and then it was, but can I still have ice cream if I finish this amount of it? And I was like, go ask daddy. I'm not answering this right now. So that whole like they gotta be good for the treats thing really rings true. But
So
then,
Naughty Nan and Daisy are having, I can't remember her name, so I call her Naughty Nan.
I mean, they usually just call her Nan, so
Okay.
Naughty Nan or Nan. If you say Naughty Nan, it reminds me that Nan and Nat are two separate names because I still mix them up constantly.
And I still feel like Nat should be a girl name because it's short for Natalie,
Yeah,
but
which
Nathan.
what I was gonna say, it's short for Nathan or Nathaniel or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
Nathaniel. You just read it. I can't remember, but
I did, didn't I?
you did.
Nathaniel, yep. Look
Nathaniel.
at that. Which you usually hear abbreviated today as Nate. Um,
Not
Natalie you
that.
hear abbreviated as Nat, and
Yeah.
Nathan or Nathaniel you usually hear abbreviated as Nate. Um, yeah. But they said when they were doing the party and they were like, Nan, let's have a song. Um, I they first been saying, Nat, did you bring your fiddle? And he's like, yeah, I left it outside the door. And then they were like, Nan, let's have a song. And I was just like, didn't they just, why are you repeating? You just asked for the, why are you using the name? And I still, like, with the names right there, like one line away from each other, I would totally miss that these are two separate human beings.
Nat and Nan. Yeah.
Oh, Louisa May Alcott, I love you so much. Except, I have
The
one
name.
complaint. Hey, I've been saying for a while, and talk, I've mentioned this book numerous times since we started reading Little Women. And I keep saying that I want to read a section about um Louisa May Alcott. I'm like, yeah, I just said her name. I definitely can do this. Um but I kept forgetting to bring it down to my workshop. No, here. So the section about Louisa May Alcott. This is how each of the sections are done. They have the author, and then they have a little essay about them, and then they have like a graphic novel segment essentially about their life.
Ah, came in
So,
at an interesting point. Hello.
hey, we have Karen.
I know I'm very late today.
I'm just glad you showed up.
Actually, if it's okay with you, I might just read this page with the essay.
Go for it.
I mean, essay, but it's not that long. It's a single page. Little Women is a deeply impactful text for many readers, an intimate look into the lives of four sisters. It is the story of overcoming poverty, self-doubt, and the expectations that society places on young women. A fictionalized account of her own upbringing in Concord, Massachusetts, it is the honesty of Alcott's book that makes it, that makes it timeless. And this honesty opened wide the doors of Alcott's childhood home to an audience that was always hungry for just a little bit more. Alcott began writing Little Women in 1968, setting the novel just a few years earlier during the American Civil War. In Alcott's novel, Mr. March has left his recently impoverished family to work as a pastor and join the war effort, and his wife and daughter and 4 daughters settle into their new fatherless home as best they can. Alcott herself was no stranger to hardship, as her own father was distant in a different way. Amos Bronson Alcott was a major figure in the Transcendentalist movement, an abolitionist, and a women's rights activist, but his ideals did not guarantee financial stability. When his experiments in teaching and communal living continued to fail, it was his family who felt it deepest. The year before Little Women changed her life forever, Alcott was at home, nursing their sick mother by day and writing by night. Despite the care and worry, Alcott produced 25 stories, earned $1,000, and paid off her debts. When her mother's health finally improved, Alcott was able to devote her full efforts to writing. In October 1867, she took a small room of her own in Boston. It proved a brief respite. By February 28, 1868, Alcott was preparing to return home once more. So that's October to February. So like 5 months. Her family needed her. In her journal, she described her sadness at leaving her quiet room in Boston, but she did not begrudge her mother a moment of care. Knowing Marmee was comfortable was better than any amount of fame. Little Women was completed within 6 months of her return. Honesty, the root of Little Women's success, also became the root of Alcott's unhappiness. Her readers saw so much of themselves in her quiet story that they wanted to see more of her, too. As the money flooded in, so did letters, and as more copies sold, more and more fans flocked to Concord to meet the real-life March family. Alcott secured her finances and the future of her family by retaining the copyrights and royalties for her novel, but in doing so, she gave something away too. Orchard House would never again be the secluded family home it once was, and the now famous Alcott would spend the rest of her life running as far and hard as she could to escape the public eye. Anyway, I just wanted to read you that because I was actually up here where I have the book.
So, Karen, what are you working on?
I had a bunch of beads fall on the floor and I'm trying to sort them.
Oh, lovely.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I had a
She's
bunch of beads fall on my floor and I vacuumed them up and now I'm trying to sort them from the dirt and then I get to sort them by color.
Beautiful. I didn't
Yeah.
have a good craft to bring up here, so I'm playing a game on my phone instead. So book craft today is craft book and the necessary nitpicking
ta-da!
or bead picking.
Lisa's working on a blanket she's been working on for the last month.
No, 2 weeks.
As I said, she started it during our last session, which was 2 weeks ago. This book, random disclaimer, not sponsored. But I just heard about it on the writers, Lauren Burke and Hannah Chapman, have a podcast, Bonnets at Dawn, that I like. And I heard about it on that when they first were releasing it. It includes stories about Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, Anne Radcliffe, Charlotte Bronte, Frances Burney, Jane Austen, Elizabeth Gaskell, Mary Wollstonecraft, not to be confused with her daughter, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, who came first in the book, Frances E.W. Harper, Alice Dunbar Nelson, Anne Lister, Emily Bronte, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Edith Maud Eaton, Mary Ann Evans, who was also known as, Edith Maud Eaton was also known as Suisun Farr, pen name. I was like, stage name. No, that's not it. Mary Ann Evans' pen name was George Eliot, and Anne Bronte, who wrote under the pen name of Acton Bell, and then Beatrix Potter, Frances Hodgson Burnett, Louisa May Alcott. And it is brilliantly done. I'm a fan of their stuff, so
Okay,
I wanted to let other people know about it. Okay, back to Daisy's Ball.
Karen, did you get to read both chapters?
I did get to read both chapters, yes.
Okay, good. No spoilers for you then.
Nope.
All right.
Good, because chapter 10 deserves to be read.
Right. Chapter 10 definitely deserves to be read.
So let's zoom through chapter 9.
Chapter 9. So Daisy and Nan want to have a ball. And I think Nan was Mrs. Smith.
Mm-mm.
And
Daisy was Mrs. Smith,
okay, and Nan was Miss Smith.
her daughter.
Miss Smith. Yes, her daughter.
And because Daisy's the mother, she doesn't have to get as dressed up. So she wears a nightcap so that it looks like a mob cap with a ribbon tied around it. And she wears, I don't even remember what, but other stuff to make her
Like
look
a long
as
skirt,
skirt.
a shawl, and some
Yeah.
spectacles.
That's right. And she's so excited to have real soup with a ladle and a tureen
Yep. And the vegetables.
and nice vegetables.
Because she's never been able to say it right, so she stopped trying. Vegetables.
Vegetables.
And then there
Vegetables.
was, I keep forgetting her name. I know it starts with a B.
Betsy.
Betsy? Bessie?
Bessie.
Bessie. Bessy. Bessie.
Okay.
But Bessie and Betsy are both nicknames for Elizabeth,
Okay.
along with Liz, Beth, Bet, Lizzie.
so I'm
There are
Lisa.
a lot of nicknames for Elizabeth. When you have a
Lisa was
name that gets
originally a
4 full
nickname for-
syllables going, they come up with a lot of nicknames for it.
Lisa was originally a nickname for Elizabeth, actually. So
So it's Lisbeth, Eliz, Lissa, Lissy. There are a lot of them. like Jack was every boy in England.
Elizabeth was every
But
girl.
It was short for Jonathan, but it was just like it didn't matter if they had other names, they were all Jack. And girls, like, they could literally all be Elizabeth and still have different names from each other. Anyway, okay, so Nan, being the daughter, had to get much fancier dressed up. I am the daughter, so I rig up a good deal, and I must sing and dance and talk more than you do. The mothers only get the tea and be proper, you know?
And get to throw out the naughty boys.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out when Bess, acting the part of the maid, goes to let the boys in.
Right?
Obviously, gentleman is gentleman, and it's
Right.
already. But what is wart in?
Welcome?
I was like,
I think it was come in. I thought it was
Wart?
supposed to be come in.
it's WART,
second.
wart in.
Hold on a second.
So I was trying to figure out if she meant to say like right in, like come right in. Like most of the time, her like way of phonetically spelling children's stuff makes perfect sense to me. And it's always adorable. I love it. I just, little kids talking, and I'll just be like, every once in a while. Usually I'm pretty good at figuring out what little kids are saying, but every once in a while it's just,
Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of those moments in reading it. Ward in. I know gentleman. I love gentleman. Gentleman. It's already.
Yeah, I was listening to the audio, so to me it sounded like welcome. But Karen's right, it could be come in. Me.
I actually just picked up a copy of this weekend, finally, that I found at a
Oh.
yard sale. But
Nice.
I'm still reading it on Gutenberg. On Project Gutenberg. My copy of it was downstairs and I was up here reading it. So
Hey, I just like the fact that I can work while I listen to the audio. I
Yeah.
love reading, like actually reading books, but because I have so much to do as an adult now, like it's nice to have the audio because I still
Yeah.
get to do both.
keep talking. I'm looking for something, but
Anyway, so they have a lovely ball. The boys are trying to get out of there as quick as possible.
And knowing that Tommy tries to
only
say,
have to
let's
stay
have
long enough
tea
to stay.
first. Tommy's like,
Yeah,
let's have tea first. Knowing that the boys are planning to leave as soon as they get the food.
that's why the food is last.
Daisy knew what they wanted. Daisy knew.
Right. Um. Yep. So Nat brings in his fiddle, and I think is it Daisy dances with Demi, or does she dance? I can't remember if she danced with
Daisy
Demi or
dances with
Tommy.
Tommy because
And-
I will take Mr. Bangs and teach him the polka, for he does not know it fit to be seen.
Right. So,
You
and that
thought
way
it was
Demi gets to
Tommy?
dance with Nan.
Tommy has such a crush on Nan and is so mean to her because he doesn't know how to express his feeling. And she so hates him, except I'm pretty sure she has a bit of a crush on him too, but she doesn't know it because she's too busy hating him.
He does
like-
have a crush on her. He doesn't know how to treat her.
Minnie,
Yep.
Darcy, and Elizabeth.
But
I like girls who misbehave. And Nan's just like,
Right.
don't say that about me. And he looks at her like, it's a horrible thing to say.
how gross.
You're so mean.
But yeah. Yeah.
You know, if we could convince Polar Spring, Polar, I always try to mix up Polar and Poland Springs. If we could convince Polar Seltzer to sponsor us, I would totally drink one of these on every single book craft session.
You drink like 2 or 3 a day
They
when
don't
you
have to
were
sponsor
working
us in money.
with
They just have to sponsor me in seltzers.
us.
Spicy
Just
water.
pay for my seltzers.
That
Yeah,
would
you
save
could get-
you a lot of money, actually.
work,
Coming
you
They
go
over
can
like
make me
2 or
my
3 a
own
day.
flavor, and it'll officially be named Kay's Spicy Water.
There you go.
For anybody who has missed this story before, Karen and Lisa, I know you know this. My niece always called, well, the first time she had it when she was like a year and a half, she was like, this water is spicy. And everybody in my family has called it spicy water ever since. So I have to like stop and look at the bottle like I just did and remind myself that it's called seltzer, because in my brain it is spicy water. At one point I was doing that. I was like, seltzer, what's the real word? And my 9-year-old's going, it's called seltzer. I'm like, you don't even like it. Shush.
So they dance, and
don't-
then
I don't especially like blueberry, and I'm meh on lemon. Why do I love the blueberry lemon so much?
I don't know.
It's the way
Okay,
the
continue.
acidic lemon goes with the sweet blueberry.
Yeah,
Maybe.
they pair well, that's for sure. Okay, I will stop interrupting our book now.
So, so Nat plays the fiddle when they dance a while, and then, Nan plays some songs on the piano. Which was it a real? I'm trying to figure. It's probably like a little kid's piano, I'm guessing.
I think, or it was like a mini, like they're.
It
I
was
know
a
they
writing
made, they still
table.
make, but even back then they made little. Yeah, but the way that they said it, it was like she opened the writing table and it sounded like there was something inside that she could play on.
Yeah,
It was either that or she sat at the writing table and was pretending that it was a piano to play on and sing.
probably. It could have been that.
But I know that they did make some like portable desktop like mini pianos that only had like 2 or 3 octaves. Like they still make those, but they usually make them electronically now. But they
Yeah.
did have a variation of that back then. So that's also possible. I don't know if Nan played the piano or not.
I was surprised when the first song she sang had the word guitar in it. I was like, I guess I
Yeah,
didn't
the word
realize
what?
how old the instrument guitar was.
How old
I-
the guitar is? It's
I mean, I know it's a decent instrument, but I guess I didn't realize that the specific instrument guitar was over a century old.
Hmm.
Like, I think that surprised me. I know it shouldn't, but I was a little taken aback by the song she sang with the word guitar in it.
Okay, keep talking. I'm looking up information about the guitar now. I'll let you know when I get there.
Oh, so basically,
So
the first song she sings has the line guitar, and I was thinking that it was interesting that the word guitar was in a song that children used to sing way back when I feel like it's more like I feel like it wasn't. I guess I just didn't realize when it was invented, but I thought it was after this time period, which
So
I have a really hard time of knowing what's in this time period because it keeps thinking
after
it's older
numerous,
than it is.
this is the original shape of the guitar, was in the 14th and 15th centuries. A plucked string instrument that was first called a guitar appeared in Spain around the turn of the 15th century. It was actually called a vihuela and consisted of 4 double string paired courses. Um, and a 5 double string version appeared around the year 1600, and a 6 single string version became popular in Europe in the 1800s, which is the closest ancestor to today's guitar and is even called the 19th century guitar. But it was 19th, it was guitar maker Antonio de Torres, born in Spain in 1817, who made a larger version of the guitar. So I don't know when he made that larger version. It does not say that, but he was born in 1817, so it's feasible that he had made that version before then. But it was because of I just closed it and I forgot what the other word was. The guitar something or something guitar. I can't trill my R's very well unless it's the only thing I'm doing. Guitar. There it was a double R in there anyway. That the word came from. So they might have called it a guitar, even if it was like the smaller version, not the version that we know today. Anyway, so yes, Gailey the Troubadour touched his guitar and as he was hastening home from the war. Or touched his guitar as he was hastening home from the war. Touched his guitar as he was hastening home from the war.
I don't know.
Something like that. And
Yeah.
then Bounding Billows and then Bo Peep and other gems of songs, so they were obliged to hint that they'd had enough.
Yep.
And then they had tea.
And then they had the snacks, but Daisy was yelling at Tommy for stealing the pastries.
Which he insisted he didn't do right up until he started pulling them out of his pocket to come at them.
Well, that was because Demi and Nat were trying to pull him out of his pockets. He started using it as ammo.
And
The jig was
ultimately,
up.
Mrs. Smith, i.e., Daisy, was doing such a good job maintaining the air of pride with which the good lady did the honors of her table, and the calmness with which she bore the little mishaps that occurred, despite one thing after another. And yet, including when Miss Smith squabbled with the maid for the best jumble, which caused Bess to toss the whole dish into the air and burst out crying amid a rain of falling cakes. And yet still it went until all of the chief ornament of the feast, the plate of patties, which were essentially flour, salt, and water. They were basically crackers with a raisin in the middle and sugar sprinkled on top. But they all vanished at once, and she kept saying, "You hid them, Tommy. I know you did." And he's like, "I didn't." And Nan, in the middle of eating up all the jelly, is going, "It's not proper to contradict." Should be super proper. And then Tommy So it wasn't just that he was denying it, he tried to turn it on Demi. He's like, give him back,
Yeah.
Demi, said Tommy. That's Demi, you've got him in your own pocket, bawled Demi, roused by the false accusation. So they said that Demi and Nat had been bad too, but Demi and Nat were mostly defending them. So
Yeah, but then they started roughhousing with him, which is what caused him to
Not
pelt
make
them
right.
across
they
the
did.
room.
It definitely devolved into that. But
Those
it was
stupid
mostly
guys.
Tommy.
They were good until that point.
And then they were um their glory had departed, for the sugar was gone, and no one cared to eat them after the insult offered to them.
Yeah, because they were thrown on the floor.
Probably heartbroken.
After being stuffed in Tommy's pocket, which probably still would not have been enough to stop them had they been tastier than they probably were. um and then they heard Aunt Joe's voice on the stairs, and they were like, I guess we better go. But Joe got there before they could finish leaving, and the girls told her everything, and they determined that the boys could not play with the girls. I can tell you from experience, my children, they're in so many ways, they're each other's best friends, but they're brothers and they fight. Mostly just arguing. Occasionally they get physical with each other, but my boys don't do that very often. They mostly just argue incessantly. And and I can say with great authority, there is no greater way to make them want to play with each other than to tell them, you're going to stay in that room, play by yourself, and you're going to stay in that room and play by yourself, and you two are not allowed to play with each other. And the boys and girls were not allowed to play with each other anymore, and it was the worst.
Poor Demi and Daisy, they were like, when they were told that Daisy would have to go back home, like he was so sad. He didn't want his sister to leave. And I'm like,
I hate the twins.
I'm like, no, he's just separate the twins.
You know she wouldn't do that either. Meanwhile, Karen's reaching for Lisa, and Lisa's like, what?
I'm like, twinsies. And she's just like, crochet away.
I'm the third twin.
I've always been the clingier twin, actually. This is true. In first grade, we got separated because Lisa pushed me on the ground because I was too huggy. I hugged her too much in school.
Okay, so in first grade, I felt like it wasn't cool to hug in public. And
That's your twin.
Karen and I always had this thing about wanting to be popular, wanting to fit in. It was all the way through high school. I had this opinion. But anyway, so Karen came up to hug me, and I remember throwing her on the ground and yelling at her, I told you not to hug me. And we were never in the same grade again until sixth grade. We were in different classes.
Until then.
Never...
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so trying to rush through the rest of this because we're taking mostly I'm
Far
making
too
it
long.
take longer, I know.
It's all right.
But the boys, after 3 days of this, could not stand it anymore and went to Mr. Bear for help and counsel. And again, I love this line. It is my private opinion that he had received instructions how to behave if this case should be laid before him, but no one suspected it, and he gave the afflicted boys some advice, which they gratefully accepted and carried out in the following manner. I just love that. Like, personally, I think.
Yeah, and then later, like, Joe says something that makes you think she's the one that kind of like tipped it off.
It's pretty clear, but they still managed to surprise Joe too, and I love that. And so the boys secluded themselves in the garret, which I'm pretty sure is part of the barn.
I think so. I think it's part of the barn.
Or possibly a like tower of the house or something. It's a Victorian style house, so it probably has those. And they devoted several play hours to the manufacture of some mysterious machine, which shook so much paste that Asia grumbled.
And like, what do they need paste? And by the time they said what it was, I'd forgotten about the paste.
I I was like, oh, and they kept going until they finally came in, and Demi marched into Mrs. Bear's room, hat in hand, and said in the politest tone possible to a mortal boy of his years. Again, I love those. Politest tone possible to a mortal boy of his years. Please, Aunt Jo, would you and the girls come out to a surprise party we have made for you? Do, it's a very nice one. And they all go, and Teddy too.
Teddy
And
too.
I think that could be its own book, and Teddy too. And they were like, but you'll come too, right, Auntie? And she's like, I should like it exceedingly, but are you quite sure I shall not be in the way? And they're like, oh no, indeed, we want you very much, and the party will be spoiled if you don't come.
Yeah, they were quite
And
upset that apparently no girls met Aunt Jo too.
and that's the first indication that Aunt Jo does not know the whole of what they're doing. If they insist that they need her there, and she thinks, well, I'll be in the way, won't I? That thing that I definitely don't know about. And so they go out, take the wagon, pull the girls in the wagon, the girls and Teddy in the wagon out to the hill, and they go behind a rock, and they each come out and present each of the three young ladies with a new kite that they've made for them. And then that isn't all the surprise, and running behind the rock again emerged bearing a fourth kite of superb size, on which was printed in bright yellow letters for Mother Bear. And they fly the kites, and eventually
Well,
when
Mr.
they get
Bear came out from behind the rock too.
what?
Mr. Bear came out from behind the rock
Oh,
too.
yes. Sorry, I skipped that part. I actually accidentally skipped it the first time that I read it, but I have a tendency to like read here and here and here and back, and I had gone back at one point and I was like, oh, whoops, missed that. And then I skipped it in retelling it too. And so when they got tired, they tied the kite strings to trees and fences to continue flying while they sat down to rest. And Jo told them a story about the last time that she had flown kites with Uncle Teddy when she was a great girl of 15 and ashamed to be seen at such play. And she and Uncle Teddy were, as they were flying their kites, a group of other people about their age-ish were coming up from a picnic. And so Teddy, who didn't actually mind it personally, but because Jo was so embarrassed, took his knife out and cut the strings and let the kites fly away. And they never found the kites again, but she didn't mind because she made up her mind that it would be best to wait till she was an old lady before playing with kites again. And you see, I have waited. Like, I'm like, what are you, like 35, maybe 40? It's super something that I say to boys,
Is
like,
that a
oh,
sign that we should all go fly kites?
yeah. And then as they start reeling them in, and they're like, must we go now? And she goes, I must, or you won't have any supper. And that sort of surprise party would not suit you, I think, my chickens.
No.
Yeah, I think going to having no supper would definitely not be a good surprise party.
And then reiterating that the party's been a nice one. And Joe's like, do you know why? Because your guests have behaved themselves and tried to make everything go well. You understand what I mean, don't you? And the boys are like, yes.
Yes.
And
I
then chapter 10,
understand.
home again.
Yeah,
Lisa, we have
chapter
15
10.
minutes. Go.
Okay, so chapter 10. It's talking about how it's a normal summer night. The boys are all playing outside, and she's giving Teddy his bath. I think she was giving him his bath. I think that's what she was doing.
I
Anyway,
don't know. I think I accidentally
he's like,
skimmed over that like 5 times.
he's like, my Danny, my Danny. So,
Oh, it's just like she was undressing Teddy, so probably getting him changed for bed.
probably. So, he's convinced that he saw Danny. Um, and she's like looking out the window, doesn't see anything, doesn't see him. Um, and then she puts him to bed, and they have no dinner, and they all go to bed, and she's just doing last minute, closing the doors, turning off the lights, all that stuff. And she sees what she thinks is Nan's hat out on a hay bale. Uh, and come to find out,
Left it there before.
it isn't a hat. It is Danny sleeping, but not beside the hay bale. And he looks pretty worse for wear.
He's thin, weak looking.
Has a jacket wrapped around his foot. So she goes to pet to I don't know if she went to pick up his head or brush his hair or something, but she touches his head and he wakes up and he goes, "Mama Bear, I've come home."
Which just was so
With
sweet.
a smile on his face. And then he realized that when she picked him up that
it says she stooped over him gently and gently called his name. So she was trying to wake him up.
Oh,
to
okay.
get him.
And he was so happy.
Sorry.
And then he realized that it wasn't a dream, that he really was talking to Mama Bear. And he's like, I got this. I'm good. Like, I was just coming to say hi. I was just swinging by. Like he wouldn't be accepted back in the building.
That's what he's afraid
He
of.
was afraid.
So she convinces him to come inside. And she goes to take a look at his foot, talking to him and
He's
asking
so
him where he's
I
been
winced
and what.
every time they talk about this foot.
I
She's like,
know.
"What happened to your foot?" And he's like, "Oh, I was climbing over a wall and a rock fell on it and smashed it, but it's fine."
Yeah, right. And, um, so she gets him inside, finds out what happened, where he's been,
It's been a
and
month.
it's been a month since he ran away from
Paige's farm.
Paige's farm.
I was
There
like,
we go.
it starts with a
I
P.
knew it started with P, yeah. Paige's farm. So it's probably been almost 2 months not even 2 months since he left Plumfield. So yeah, I'm gonna say it hasn't even been. I don't think he made it a month at Paige's farm, to be honest.
I think
I
maybe
don't
at least a
remember.
week or two. Maybe.
But so it hasn't even been 2 months since he left Plumfield. She obviously was devastated when they had to send him off. So, she's happy to have it back. And he's worried that Mr. Bear won't be happy to see him or forgive him. And she goes to go to Mr. Bear in the other room, leaves the door open so that he can hear everything they say, basically saying how he's come back and she wants to take him in and how they want to forgive him and they want to help him. And he cries a little. He doesn't let anybody see his tears, but he cries a little because he knows how much he's loved there. And Mr. Bear comes in and looks at his foot, and he's like, "We need the doctor in the morning," but he's like cleans it up and bandages it. And they put him in the guest bedroom, which is usually meant for the sick children, so that they can keep an eye on them. And after a few hours of sleep, his foot starts to bother him. And Joe, who's apparently a very light sleeper.
I blame Beth's illness.
Yeah, I blame Beth's illness too. Like she's probably just so used listening for any signs of distress. And so she comes in, she changes his bandage, gets it cool and wet and cleaned up. And she's like, "Don't worry, you didn't wake me. I just flutter around." She goes, "If it happens, like I'll be in and out taking care of your foot." And he sleeps peacefully the rest of the night and well into the next day, which is Sunday.
Like till noon.
Yeah. And then they get him into then the doctor arrives. And he says
Teddy
that,
feeds him breakfast. Teddy feeds him breakfast.
yeah, Teddy feeds him breakfast. That was so cute.
His deficit.
Um,
I love that.
Danny! Oh,
and
Hi,
then
Danny.
he asked if all of his stuff all of his baubles was thrown away, because that's what he expected other people to see it as trash. Um, and she's like, "Nope, I figured it was important to you," which is very true. Like if you think about it, if someone living on the street has something with them, it's usually probably important to them.
That and also like children collect treasures and like it's one thing if they like collect things and then promptly forget about them, but they collect their treasures and they're protecting them. Those mean something to them, whether it means anything to you or not.
Right. Exactly. So
I
I was
mean,
really
that's true
happy
of
that she
anybody,
kept them.
really.
I was really happy that she kept them, and he was explaining them to her and then a couple of the boys, and they helped him set it up in I'm assuming Polly was a carrot. Um, Polly's cage.
yeah,
Um,
you remember the parrot from Little Women that liked
no,
Amy? Like Joe hated it, but Amy liked it.
Yep.
I barely remember that.
Oh,
Sorry, guys.
There was the bird and the dog.
I guess it was from the second half, which was actually Good Wives. I think it was.
Oh, okay. Um, anyway, so the doctor tells him that he isn't supposed to be on his foot for at least a week. He will come and check on it a week after he resets the foot, which sounds so painful because you
But he didn't
three
cry.
bones.
He
Because
squeezed Joe's hand really hard, but he didn't cry.
that's probably multiple bones in there that
Yeah, I
had to
think
be
the bones are so
reset.
tiny.
He
There are
couldn't be like put
26
to sleep or
bones in your
anything.
feet.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think all of them broke, but probably several of them had to be set,
So
especially
they
since
said
he's been
three of
walking
them
on
were
it for
out of
3 days.
place. Yeah, they said three of them were out of place.
Oh,
I'm
I'd
like, and
rather
I'm
part.
like, ouch. Like, ow. Resetting
I
bones.
when my son broke his arm, he broke his arm twice. But the second time it was at an angle. The first time it didn't need to be set. The first time I was like, I'm gonna bring him in because he's really acting differently about this than he usually does with injuries, but like, and then it turned out that he had broken both bones. But the second time there was no question. It was his arm's broken. We're taking him to the hospital because it was at a distinct angle, and they gave him medicine, and he was kind of like half asleep, half awake when they said it, and with like numbing agents and stuff. And I was still like hugging him, like, okay, mommy's got you, and I'm gonna keep my face over here where you can't see it. And that was with all of that. Like he had to have 3 bones set in his foot
Yeah,
without medicine for
yeah.
it. Like if anything, they could have given him like um I know sometimes they would use like a little bit of alcohol or something to help somebody like dull their senses, but I don't know how much. I mean, they probably did that with kids to some degree too. I mean, there are people
Right.
still who will say just rub some rum on their gums while they're teething. Um,
Yeah, there are people that say that.
yep. Um,
And there's still
but
some people who give their kids alcohol to put them to sleep too.
ugh,
There are.
horrible,
Uh,
horrible idea. Don't do that.
not good
Just
parenting advice.
just throwing that out there for
Don't
anybody
do that.
watching. We are not advocating to do any of this.
No.
You said
Um,
I knew some people that did that. Don't do.
so then he's like, well, what am I gonna do if I can't use my foot? And he's thinking long term, like he's gonna be a cripple, like he's not gonna be able to use his foot. Like he's convinced a worst possible scenario.
Yeah,
Eh,
because the doctor's like, we'll see in a week if it has to be longer or if you can start walking around with a stick with a crutch.
right. And even with the crutch, he's probably thinking he's gonna have a crutch the rest of his life. Um, and she's just like, I'm pretty sure you'll be up and about like normal in a month. She's just like, you'll be fine. and she gives him this reward system, which I absolutely loved because she found something that meant something to Danny, because that was one of the things was they couldn't find something to drive him to give him motivation. Um, and so she's like, you can have a drawer every month for your treasures. This one already is separated into four, for one for each week of the month. And so it's like, you can already go ahead and put your stuff in there. He's like, but I'm not going to be able to walk around and get stuff this week for next week. And she's like, I'm sure the boys will bring you things.
They won't know what to bring me.
And they bring him like a bullfrog and a butterfly.
Right,
Demi
Like, yeah, I
gave,
have nowhere to keep that bullfrog, but the butterfly we can do.
right, and then Joe's all like, I don't want to just like kill it by penning it down. And she's like, why don't we use some camphor? Was it camphor?
Mhm.
Okay, to kill it. And he's like, well, this guy that I was on the road with taught
Mr.
me
Hyde.
to, Mr. Hyde. Thank you. I couldn't think of his name.
Assuming that he's not the alter ego of Dr. Jekyll in this case.
No, this is the guy that he ran away from Paige's farm with. He because like he showed me how to kill him with a pin, so he just like killed it with the camphor. But he's like, don't worry, I wasn't gonna like torture it, pretty much.
I'm not even talking
Actually,
about
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde hadn't been written yet.
Oh, really? Interesting.
It was written in 1886 and Little Men came out in 1871.
5 years apart. But so, and he was very grateful that Demi gave up his
15?
walking trip.
15 years apart?
Did I say 5?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I had to stop and remember what numbers I had just said because I was like, I think it was more than 5, wasn't it? Wait, what were those numbers?
I thought you said 76, not 86.
No, 86.
So.
86 and 71.
All right. So he was very grateful for Demi for giving up his trip. He had a great day. Even everybody tried to include him, even though he was stuck in the parlor. And then they put him to bed. And Teddy wanted to come in and say his prayers with him.
Did you mention the crabs?
No, I didn't. That was
Like
so funny.
you mentioned that they put the crabs in the cage, but then like we got
Right,
distracted talking about Polly.
They got loose.
Wait, how does he say it?
It was very funny. Funny written.
It was like I remember it started with the crabs.
there was a bigger crab that was eating one of the littler crabs.
The little crabs got loose and the big crab's eating them all up.
And Teddy's just like standing in a chair where he can't be attacked by a crab.
Here it is. Oh, the little crabs are out and the big one's eating them all up.
And
the whole
crab.
description. The whole description was so funny because it's like the little crabs, like 2 of the little crabs had gotten out through the wires and the third one was clinging to the top of the cage, evidently in terror for his life, for below appeared a sad yet funny sight. The big crab had wedged himself into the little recess where Polly's cup used to stand, and there he sat eating one of his relations in the coolest way. Which is so hard in our vernacular not to read like it's the coolest, but like in a very cool, just calmest sort of manner. And I have to remind myself that that's what it means because every time I read it, it's like in the coolest way, and I'm like, no, wait, that's not what that means.
He's just like sitting there using it like a bowl, like just like digging out of it like a bowl.
Yep. I mean, that's what a crab shell is, right?
Right. It's a plate.
Crab on half shell, just
like pull off all of his limbs. Like, oh jeez, poor crab.
Well, cannibal.
Eaten alive by his skin.
Some of them are. So you ever eaten in the animal kingdom?
Yep.
So yeah.
We're at the end of our time, but I want to just say, my children are clamoring for my attention. But I want to
with like 2 sentences left.
2 sentences, go.
Okay, so, well, a couple more too, but okay. So like Teddy comes in and he says his prayers with Danny, and he says, "Bless all and help me be good, help me to be good." And then so as he leaves,
Please God bless everybody and help me to be good.
that's right. Dear God, bless everybody and help me to be good. Um, and so since he promised Joe that he would say his prayers after they all leave and all is quiet, he folds his hands and he's like, "Dear God, bless everybody and help me to be good." And I'm just like, he got down
I
from Daddy.
I teared up at him repeating that, but also it reminded me of my own kids because even at 9 and 12, they still, I mean, they say more in their prayers than that. But and we pray together and we take turns each night, one person prays. Um, but their prayers are almost invariably and help us have good sleep and a good day tomorrow and help the cops catch all the bad guys and help nothing bad to ever happen to anybody in the world. And I'm just like, I love you guys. So
So that was
yeah,
the end of chapter
it,
10.
it made me think
Danny's
of that.
back.
The
All is
the other
well.
the other thing that I forgot to say before, in chapter 9, because I was so excited to get to chapter 10, is that when they were running around with the kite, um, they Joe, it's like the most Joe we've gotten to see her be since she became Mother Bear.
Right?
She oh well, I figured I'd have to wait till I was an old lady to get to run around like a little girl again. Um, but she also like the whole thing with like the kite seemed to know who its owner was because it dipped and it darted and it went everywhere and almost crashed into the ground several times and then suddenly went way up high, almost out of sight. I was
Very
just
Joe,
like,
yeah.
I was thinking that sounds like one
yep.
of my kites.
What? What'd you say?
I was like, that sounds like one of my kites.
You are Joe.
I am
Um,
though.
All right.
and then I also loved we forgot to mention Bessie didn't want them to fly her kite. She would let it go for very short flights, but she mostly wanted to hold her pitty boo kite in her lap.
That's right. Her pretty
Just
boo
to look at
kite.
it. Her boo kite. So yes, next time, chapters 11 and 12. How many chapters are in this anyway?
I have no idea.
I'm checking. 21. More than I thought, but still way smaller than
We're about halfway done.
We're
the
about
one.
halfway done.
Yep. So chapters 11 and 12 next time, Uncle Teddy and Huckleberries. I'm going to assume that those Huckleberries are not Huckleberry Finn.
That's exactly what my brain went.
Huckleberry means nothing else to me except for Tom and Huck. Like even like I love the book of Tom Sawyer and the book of Huckleberry Finn, but the movie Tom and Huck comes to my mind first every time.
All right. Bye.